me begin with a question. How would you feel if you were suddenly made to live inside four walls for the rest of your life? You'd feel trapped, suffocated, desperate to escape, right? Now, what if these walls were invisible? Would you still feel the same way? Probably not, because everything visible is the same as before. The walls don't seem to exist, and so there is no real reason to feel trapped in about. You will be living inside something without ever realizing you are doing so. The thought now becomes frightening, doesn't it? I once lived inside such invisible walls. It was the 17th of January 2021. I was just sitting, hell-bent over trying to get my dinosaur to reach a score of 9999, when suddenly my name was called out. I looked up from my phone, and almost immediately a sharp pain began to build at the back of my neck. At first, it was nothing, but then in just a matter of minutes, the pain became unbearable. I began to cry. My dad noticed this, so he gathered my family, and we immediately set off to the hospital. But there I wasn't told much, just a small pain caused by my tonsils. And so they injected me with painkillers and sent us back home. The moment I reached my bed, I crashed, though. But that night, I had the most uncomfortable sleep of my entire life. I felt like I was tied up in a sack and thrown down an endless staircase, step by step, over and over again. The next morning, I woke up feeling disoriented. And then everything went downhill. Because what followed was 1.5 days' worth of running from hospital to hospital, searching for a doctor without food, without certainty of my life, and without control. The right side of my body was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move my arm. I couldn't move my leg. I couldn't even move a finger. And to make things worse, the left side of my body started to fail as well. I lost all sensations. My body was numb and unresponsive, as if it no longer belonged to me. And yet, in that helpless state, I realized something. Every choice that I could have taken was made by someone else. Every action that I wanted to do was decided by someone else. At that moment, I understood what it was to live inside invisible walls. For me, it was a wall of disability. The walls made sure that I received care, comfort, but that very comfort became a cage for me. I could only move as much as the cage allowed. I was stripped of my ability to make choices, to live my life on my own terms. And so for the first time ever in my life, I felt what it was to be locked up, not by force, but by the very system that is meant to keep you safe and comfortable. It then took me just 6 days to be up and about. A miracle, as the doctors called it, but it still took me 2.5 years to recover completely. 2.5 years to reclaim my independence. Now, I'm pretty sure you're all wondering why I'm going on and on about the concept of walls and paralysis and all that. There is a reason. Because as we sit here today, an entire generation may have to face what I once did. My paralysis lasted just 6 days. But what if an entire generation grew up inside walls like mine that restricted them from making choices, from struggling, or from resisting? Ladies and gentlemen, the question is not a what if anymore, because that generation is Generation Beta. Let me put it more clearly for you. Earlier generations grew up pushing against visible walls, strict expectations, clear limitations, rules that told them exactly what they could or couldn't do. They knew when something was blocking them. They could feel that resistance building inside their heart. But Gen Beta, on the other hand, will not be fighting against visible restrictions. Instead, they will be growing up inside invisible ones that quietly make their choices for them. Instead of pushing against the walls would rearrange themselves around them. And when you're not exactly pushing against something, you don't always realize you are living inside something at all. So what exactly are these invisible walls? See, when I talk about invisible walls, I'm actually referring to all the systems that shape people's behaviors. The worst part is that they don't always do it openly or knowingly. They just put the people onto a certain path, pretty much from the very beginning. Where exactly? It starts from the rhymes that kids watch. Most of the parents don't realize this, but the things that kids watch and witness at a very young age impacts their life a lot. Pediatricians often warn that high-speed digital content can overstimulate developing brains, but parents just choose to ignore this. Overstimulating content can lead to attention deficiency, and it can make the children constantly dependent on digital stimulation. This will eventually lead to a common problem that everyone in the world are facing right now: the addiction of scrolling. But this won't be your average addiction, because the algorithm now controls the very tempo of that kid's life. Speaking about the algorithms, how would you feel if I said that the algorithms don't just recommend content anymore? Here's the reality. They don't. They shape attention. They shape personalities, opinions, aesthetics, and even dreams. Have you ever noticed how similar things start to look online? Beauty trends converge. Content creators start following the same format. And slowly, everyone starts moving in the same direction. Why is this so? Because when the algorithm decides something is supposed to be popular, it becomes the standard. The beauty it promotes becomes the beauty we chase. The trends it pushes become the trends we follow. And just like that, slowly, without ever realizing, we begin shaping ourselves to what performs best online. Until we realize we are living inside a system we never chose. Another one such example is the rise of AI. AI tools were created to make our lives easier, safer, and more comfortable, right? And it certainly does. But in the case of Gen Beta, the generation that would most likely grow up in a world dominated by the use of AI, it doesn't just make their lives smoother. It gives them a cheat code to live. Students all over the world have already started using AI to complete their everyday tasks and to finish their assignments faster. Now multiply that 1,000-fold. You get a generation that would be completely dependent on AI for thinking and for decision-making. No personal intelligence, no creativity as such. You have a bunch of kids running about without actually learning anything. Why? Because the AI has already gifted them perfection. And these are only a few examples. But what's surprising is that none of these systems were built on bad intentions. Parents build them out of love, trying to keep their children as far away as possible from pain and danger. Schools build them in the name of obedience, efficiency, and score-obsessed success. Technology builds them in the name of prediction, personalization, and convenience. Ultimately, all these systems were built to make our lives easier, safer, and more comfortable. But sometimes the very systems that are built to make our lives comfortable can in fact turn out to be the walls that surround us. So where exactly are we going wrong, you may ask? See, comfort was the goal, and it still is, but it was never meant to replace our freedom. When life is optimized to such an extent that friction disappears, so does resistance. And when resistance disappears, nothing is strengthened. Not character, not thought, and definitely not identity. Inside these walls, failure becomes easier to bypass. Identity becomes something you pick out of a menu instead of something you build through experience. My fear isn't that Gen Beta won't be growing up asking the question, who am I? It's that they will be asking the question, which version of me performs better? Which version of me fits this surrounding better? The most depressing part? They will never realize this. They won't wake up one day and realize that they've lost their freedom, because it doesn't go overnight. It fades slowly as decisions become less important and as curiosity becomes curated. When everything in life fits perfectly, stepping outside the walls would never feel risky. It would just feel unnecessary. Now, I'm not sure if most of you already realize this, but stepping outside such a lifestyle of comfort or of such normalization is not easy. It takes a huge amount of time. Just like how I took a significantly longer time to recover completely, understanding this topic and getting Gen Beta out will need time. Because changing the lifestyle of an entire generation, influenced right from birth, will need time. Now here's the million-dollar question. What do we do? It's quite a simple approach, really. There are 2 steps to it. Number 1, we teach the children about the world they live in. We give them the knowledge about the walls, about the systems, and about the world they are standing on right now. But that's not the only thing we have to do. That's why we have step number 2. We build doors. Maybe the doors could be as simple as letting a child feel bored instead of just handing them the screens. Maybe it could be as simple as letting a child struggle with a problem instead of just giving them the solutions. We must build doors that will allow the children to be themselves without being told who they are supposed to be. When I was trapped inside my own body, I didn't need the world to become less caring. No, I just wanted the chance to move freely, to make a choice, even a small one, to know that my life still belonged in my hands. And that is what Gen Beta will need too. Not a world without systems, but a world where those systems don't replace their ability to decide. The harsh truth is, the future isn't really about how smart our technology is. It's about how much freedom we live in it. If Gen Beta is going to be born inside walls, then our role isn't to destroy those walls, no. It's to make sure that they know where the doors are. Thank you.